All right, I want to go through some troubleshooting procedures so you know the kind of things to look for when you have these problems. One thing you want to be certain is you always have a good battery. As your battery gets older, it'll get weaker. You will have to change it. As I told you earlier, your engine charging system regenerates that battery. This particular engine has a 16 amp charging system, and that more than compensates for the amount of current that you need to operate this burner. So it will keep it charged up as long as your system is working, as long as you have a good battery. Occasionally you want to check the terminals on your battery to be sure that they're snug, no corrosion is forming. If you find corrosion forming, clean the terminals. Apply a little grease to the terminal before you, to the battery post before you actually put the terminal back on, and then snug it. This will keep the corrosion from forming. Now, we're going to take some hypothetical situations, as I hear many over the telephone when people are calling in because of having problems with their burners. I'm going to shoot those scenarios at you and see if you can relate to them. Some of the questions that I commonly hear are, well, gee, my burner doesn't work. First question we have to come back with is, well, what do you mean it doesn't work? Is the blower coming on? The answer is no. Then we go through that troubleshooting procedure and ask, do you have a good solid battery in it? Does your battery have plenty of power? Does your blower, is your burner switch turned on? Is a pilot light inside that switch on? Remember I showed you earlier around the other side of the machine by the engine those two yellow wires, and explained to you that they're carrying 28 to 30 volts AC. That voltage is picked up over there and comes in to your rectifier where it sends power to your burner switch. Without that voltage, you can't turn the burner on. Some of the things that might cause that to not be working is either A, you have a bad alternator on your engine, which is the least common reason. B, the most common reason, is that those clamps have come loose through vibration or somebody pushing or pulling on them or tugging on them when they were working on the machine, or throwing things on the trailer. They jammed a wand in and hit it and pulled them loose. So you always check over there first. If you can't get your burner to come on, the first thing you want to do is go over there to those yellow wires, remove the clips, and test the voltage. To test that voltage, what you want to do is take a voltmeter that's capable of measuring AC voltage as well as DC voltage. You're going to remember I told you it should run from 28 to 30 volts, so you'd set it on your lowest AC scale without going below that amount. Then you remove those clips and test your voltage. It should read from 28 to 30. If you get no voltage reading, check the clips to be sure they're good and tight. If they're not tight, then replace them or clamp down on them again. You need to restore that connection. If they are tight and you're still getting no voltage, then you can feel certain that you have a bad engine alternator. If you haven't, remember, if you have no voltage coming to the rectifier, you can't turn your burner on. Once you reestablish that, then your blower motor should work. If you still don't have any heat, you need to check. Remember I told you the three elements you need: air, fuel, and spark. To determine if you've got fuel, your engine has to be running, your pump running, and you have to be under pressure because this burner is activated by a pressure switch. The purpose of the pressure switch is to shut the burner off when you release the trigger on your trigger gun. If you didn't do this, you would experience a steam explosion. So that's a safety device. Don't ever cheat it. Don't ever override any safety device. So the first thing you want to do to test, you start your machine up, establish a flow of water, squeezing your trigger, turn your burner on. Now you want to determine if you're getting fuel. Usually you can see some turbulence in this bowl if the fuel pump is working. If not, you have a bleeder valve right here for bleeding air out of your system. You can break that open and let it squirt fuel out. If you don't want to squirt it all over your trailer or truck, you can slip a small hose on this and run it into a pan to catch the excess fuel. Once you've established the fact that you have fuel coming through the pump, the next thing you need to do is see if it's getting to the burner. Remember, I told you you have a fuel solenoid up here. It gets its power from the pressure switch. So if you're under pressure and the burner's turned on, you should have fuel going into the burner. And the way you test that is by taking this fuel line loose right here. You just take it loose. You don't even have to take it all the way off, but you can if you want to. Take it loose like that. Then squeeze your trigger again. You should have fuel pouring out there. If you have none, then you're going to have to start tracing back and see if you have power to your fuel solenoid. That's easily done by unplugging it right here. Take your test meter and test these two leads to ground. You should have 12 volts. If you do not have voltage there, then you need to suspect that the problem's with your pressure switch. You can then go to your pressure switch, be sure the wires are still connected to it, and you can short across the two terminals on it, the red and brown terminals, and that should take care of, your burner should then come on, because that would restore power.